morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christelle Rinn, and I'm the COO here at HR Locker. On today's webinar, we're going to be discussing the benefits of a graduate program and how to set one up, and when should you set one up. And I suppose the main question is, why should you set one up as well in your company? So we have Janet Toal today with us from InterTrade Ireland. One of the things we're going to be I suppose I'd like to go through with you today is discussing our own graduate program in HR Locker. So I have Adam Coleman with me today. So thank you, Adam, for being with us. And we're going to be chatting about, I suppose, how HR Locker created our own graduate program, what the benefits were, what the do's and don'ts, I suppose, what lessons we have learned. And then, as always, we have questions and answers session, and I have Jenny monitoring the questions and answers. So if somebody has any questions throughout the webinar, fire a question in there, and depending on, I'll ask either Adam or Janet as we go. So Adam, I'm just going to put you on the screen, put you on the spotlight. So I suppose, Adam, if you want to maybe just go through why you decided to put in a graduate program into HR Locker specifically.
Okay, I think as an organization, we got to a point where we had a core cohort of people who understood the business, and we felt that we had the ability now to sort of help a graduate to understand our business very, very quickly. So we thought it was very, very important at this stage of, I suppose, of where HR Locker was to start strengthening really from the bottom, as well as sort of like trying to promote from within. Having been involved in, having been on a graduate program myself back in the Jurassic period, so long ago at this stage, I understood the actual the needs and wants and of the individual. But then I suppose in later life, I actually put the graduate program together for ESAT Digiphone in the early stages of that. So to say that we were doing it from scratch would have been a lie. So we had a fair track record in it. But the important thing when you're putting a graduate program together is that you have to put yourself in the actual shoes or in the learning seat of graduates coming on board. That's really, really important. But even before you get there, there is a whole way of attracting graduates to apply, because they apply to everything these days. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to reduce the amount of recruitment and sourcing that we needed to do as best we could. So the selection part of the graduate program, I was really excited about and really, really happy the way it worked out, because we requested, once we had our graduate spec done and we decided what roles that they would most likely fit in, like our first area of doing this was the commercial area, which covers across LDRs, sales, support, etc. So we knew we were looking for people who were curious. That was really important. And the most important thing for us was that the graduates, we didn't care what they had actually studied in college, is that once they were applicable and acceptable under the principles within our business. So by having the principles, we could actually say, okay, this is how we want graduates to behave in our business. And now we need to figure out we need to find the ones who want to work with us, if that makes any sense.
Yes, that makes sense. And I'm just wondering, Adam, in terms of actually putting together a graduate program, do you think that there is a certain kind of time in a company, in an organization's growth or stage? Is it something that you should put in if you're only a startup, or do you think you have to be somewhat of an established company?
No, I think either way. I think the most important thing is that you need to have the people on board who can mentor the graduates through the first 18 months. That's probably key, and who want to. Okay, it's not as if you just take a job spec and you go, here you go, we've hired 3 graduates, now off you go and do it. But the will inside the company has to be there, and the skills inside the company in order to actually to manage that program have to be there as well. And it has to be succinctly laid out, and it has to be succinctly managed. In terms of whether it's a startup or whether it's an established business, I don't think it matters.
And do you think, I mean, at the moment, companies are having a huge issue trying to source candidates and hire people. Do you think implementing a graduate program kind of can solve that issue as a company?
I think it is, once you have the supports around that can support the graduate in the early stages of their actual journey within the business and within their career, within that organization. I think, think of yourself in your very first job when you walked in the first day, how you felt, and then elaborate from that and make that experience better is the best way I can describe it. So we did a lot of soul searching around it. We did ours. We asked various people of how they felt when they joined HR Locker, for instance. And to be honest with you, in the early days of HR Locker, you were handed a laptop. Here's our MTP. Here's a laptop. This is what we're trying to do now. Get stuck in. That, and that's like most startups. But it gets to a point where you have to learn how to scale, and you have to learn how to scale in a managed way. And I think hiring graduates into proven jobs that they can still innovate in is definitely the way forward. Particularly to try and get, as opposed to going out and spending loads of money on people who are supposedly have the experience that you want, and then you find out that they don't. They're not working in the way that you want them to work, and they're constantly telling you that, well, that wasn't the way I did it in whatever company. It doesn't really make any difference. I was going to use one, but I won't. But and you have to be very, very careful of hiring the wrong people into your business to manage this program even. Hello.
Hi, sorry, Adam. I just jumping all over the place there. So that's I'm just wondering as well. With remote working going on at the moment, do you think that um, that is an obstacle for some graduates, or how do you think you deal with that?
I 100% agree that it is a obstacle for some graduates, and it's not something I, as a graduate, would have been madly keen on on day one, because as everybody knows, the chances are you're going to meet a lot of people in your early stages of a career that have a huge impact on your life later on, mostly your partners. It's harder to do that in a remote environment. I think when you're actually recruiting the actual graduates, it's really important that they want to work from home. And you have to assess that they want to work from home. And more importantly, they have the facilities to do that as well. That's really, really important. And that will rule out quite a few graduates, believe it or not. The main reason that we do an assessment on that is, like, what we do is we get them as part of the interview process to when they apply, we look at them, we ask them a few questions using our own product, which is great. And then what we do then is we sift through the people who can work in the locations legally that we want them to work in. And then we send them out another email, and we ask them to answer 5 questions, to video those 5 questions being answered, and also to show us where their working space is going to be, and also to send us an UCLA speed clip that shows us that their Wi-Fi is over 8 megs, so that in itself, there's a huge drop off at that stage. Like I remember the last one we did, we had 68 responses initially. When we took out the people who didn't have the work permits, you were down to 40. When we sent the 40 out for the next stage to do the video, only 15 came back of the 40.
Yeah.
So this is partly due to graduates just applying for everything at the time because they're panicking to try and get a job. But what it really helps you to do is gets you down to the people who understand your business, who can work remotely. And you've gone through a really painless selection process to get to those last sort of like 20 or 5 or 6. It doesn't really make any difference depending on how many you're hiring, but that worked out really well for us last September, and it's working out really well for us now again.
That's great, Adam. So we're going to pop over to Janet now. Okay, and if anybody has any questions for Adam, if you want to put them in the chat there, and Adam will stay around to answer any questions. So Janet, we're delighted to have you with us today. And we've had some technical issues, so apologies for all that, and hope you're not too stressed out.
You'd be more stressed than I am, Crystal, to be fair.
Yeah. My apologies.
It's maybe more my fault. As we call it in our work, we call it a pick problem, which is a person and chair problem, and it could just be me this morning. So apologies.
So we're delighted to have you with us. So Janet, if you want to give us a brief overview, I suppose, of your role in InterTrade Ireland and I suppose what we're going to go through today as well.
Yeah, so morning everybody. I'm Janet Toal and I am one of the operations managers in InterTrade Ireland, and I have responsibility for looking after our innovation programs. InterTrade Ireland, if you don't know us, we are one of the cross-border bodies and we support businesses across the island in terms of trade and innovation. We're established 20 years ago, and Innovation Boost is one of the programs I manage, which is essentially a graduate program helping small businesses to take their ideas and innovation and actually put them into practice. So in terms of recruitment experience, I actually began my career in InterTrade Ireland working on Innovation Boost, and come full circle back now I am managing the program. Graduates are a particular type of work, they bring different elements to a workforce and to a small business, but it's not without challenge. And InterTrade Ireland very much sees Innovation Boost it's a graduate program, and really if you're thinking about a graduate program as a business, I suppose the way we look at it is to create a dynamic and sustainable leadership pipeline of highly committed, competent and engaged professionals who can lead the business to achieve growth ambition. Now, when you read that out, you probably say, well, that sounds lovely, but that's very, very far removed from where I am as a business. Yes, we might be dynamic, but my goodness, highly committed, competent and engaged professionals. It all sounds very, very high level. But to be fair, the graduate now, when looking for a job, very much has the opinion that it's what can you offer them and as much as what they can offer you. They're very astute and they're very clear on a career development pathway. Now they are young professionals and they are looking at how your business and the job role that they would be doing within your business will provide them with skills and experience as they move forward and progress in their own career. If you want to hit the next slide, Crystal, that's grand, thanks. So talent development. A lot of small businesses think about starting a graduate program because they think about bringing in new people, bringing in new ideas, developing talent. And it is a really good way to build a pipeline to ensure that I've said their capacity meets business needs. What I really mean is where your business is going, having the skills and abilities within that business to actually be able to deliver what the business needs. So if you are delivering products or services, it doesn't matter which, you need to have a workforce that's equipped with a skill level that's going to be able to deliver as the environment around changes. You also probably are thinking about developing future leaders. And that's a really key part of why a graduate program can really work for small business, because you can bring a graduate in and train them in what you really want them to know, but then they bring the element as well of their learning and their experience, and that benefits the business as well. You are building for future capabilities. So graduates are very much looking to the future, and people often say, oh, bring a graduate in and you're future-proofing your business. But equally, you have to think about they don't have the skills and experience you have. So you're also giving them the benefit of your skills and experiences them, as well as them bringing in the new into your business. And then it's also a really good way to think about succession management. Working with small businesses across the island, north and south, it's very clear, and I've been doing this now for 20 years, there are a lot of businesses where change is happening, where younger members of the family are maybe coming into family business and starting to bring in new ideas. And there's that succession planning and succession management starting to take place. Graduates can be a really unique type of employee to bring in to help sort of that transition and support the younger member maybe coming into the business with like-minded ideas and to be able to support that.
Yeah.
You want to hit the next idea, next slide, Crystal, thanks. So the benefits for business, an awful lot of businesses forget that actually it's a really unique way to upskill their peers and their colleagues within the business, because if you're a small business, maybe you could have 10 plus employees or even smaller. Very often the workforce you have, there's a limited opportunity for them to challenge and share knowledge with each other and to challenge each other in their job role. So working with a graduate and using a graduate program, you can actually upskill, you can introduce new ideas, new technologies, new ways of working, and in a way that can upskill their colleagues, their peers. It's a great way to introduce innovation. And innovation, companies always think has to be very, very high level, where it's something, you're bringing in something completely different. Innovation is really just thinking about change. How can you change your business to better achieve maybe, new customers, new markets, increase in sales? How can you do what you're doing now differently? What can you do better? And that could be thinking of new processes, implementing new technology. There's so much out there of opportunity. And if you haven't gone out and looked for that for your business, when you do, you can actually be very surprised as to what's available out there and what might be appropriate for your business. Diversity of thinking. The more different types of employees, backgrounds, experience, skills that you have within your business, you have that ability to look at sort of and have that aspiration of where's your business going? Where would you like to take it? Do you want to move to the next level? And graduates are a unique way because of doing that, having a program where they bring in their learning, their skills, their experience, and you can really take away a lot from that. And then agility. Graduates have a really ability to adapt quickly and to pivot very much to change. Because if you think about, I know whenever I finished my degree, we didn't have a mobile phone. Mm-hmm. And now my children are teaching me how to use things on the phone that I have absolutely no idea about. Sure. So thinking about those young people that have come through a very different, they're coming through a very different time in terms of technology, even their aspirations, the way they think, the way they view things, their knowledge of the world, and even how they challenge what is already there. So they have an agility to be able to really change it up with ideas, and that can give your business a real sense of energy. Mm-hmm. It can also, as well as giving a sense of energy, it can also frighten small businesses, because very often, you have a workforce who perhaps have been there for a long time, and people can feel threatened. So while it does create an energy, sometimes that has to be done within the framework that, it's not taken, it doesn't create a level of fear, that it's taken as an energy to move forward and everybody to move forward within the business.
I think that's important.
You want to hit?
I think that's important, Jen, just on that last piece you said in terms of agility, is that it has to be managed. I mean, and you can't just have graduates come in and they're free for all for everybody. However, there's a couple of points which I think you're so right on, Janet, is that the graduates coming in today, or really over the last 10 years, they just have they have an appetite for learning. They I suppose they really have been told they can become anything and do anything, and the sky's the limit, which is great. I mean, that's how we brought our kids up, so they can basically do and be and become and do anything. Now that also has to be managed in a certain way, but it can bring a huge diversity and a huge, I suppose, wave of fresh energy into your company.
Absolutely, Crystal. You know, the businesses that InterTrade Ireland work with, typically through our Innovation Boost programme, which is our graduate programme, our experience has been small businesses who have never had a graduate. And to be fair, when you're a business owner and you're bringing somebody new in, it's very hard to gauge your expectation, and it's also difficult to gauge theirs. Because as you say, they've been told in university, they've been told you can do whatever, the sky really is your limit. Go out there and achieve success by gaining skills, by gaining experience. They are exceptionally focused on where they're going. They are as focused on their career as you are about your business. And the point is, you have to find a graduate that aligns with what you want to achieve for your business, because they will take what they need and then often they will leave. But if you align where your business is going with opportunity for them, you will keep them, and you will have that level of momentum then within your business. So
I think that's kind of key.
It has been challenging, you know.
I think that's kind of key, and what I think is, you know, we see the kind of larger multinational companies who have graduate programs, and for me, my experience with them, and others may have different experiences, is that the graduates coming in, or they come in for their 2 or 3 years, and they're not really expected to stay. It's really just getting them in for their 2 or 3 years, bit of cheap labour, get the grunt work done and get them out. Whereas I would have the opposite view, Janet, I don't know, would you agree, is that I think that getting graduates in, they can, you can have this pipeline of people growing in your company. It doesn't have to be this conveyor belt of them leaving every 2 years. They can grow into senior positions in your company.
Absolutely, Crystal. You know, that's why the talk this morning, and I'd said to you that, you know, this is about, pardon me, a long-term recruitment strategy. It's thinking about what they can bring to your business and what your business can bring to them. It's very much that type of relationship. It has to benefit both. Working with graduates, when you offer something which is tangible, they will stay, and they will really, they will really offer so much back to the business. You know, we all know the recruitment market is so busy. It really is an employees market at the moment. It's difficult to recruit anyone, let alone sometimes graduates. Salary scales are increasing, and we're seeing that in Innovation Boost every day.
Exactly, every week things are up 5 or 10 grand, not even.
And I have graduates telling me that they're being offered 55,000 euro of a starting salary.
Wow.
Some businesses simply cannot compete with that. Smaller businesses cannot compete, because in fairness, and my experience has been, you know, you maybe have a small number of employees, and someone who's been there for a long time is maybe sitting on 45,000 euro, and you get a graduate who says, well, I want at least 50.
No, it's not.
And you know that that's going to cause huge difficulty within your business. You have to look at what is it that you're offering them. And sometimes money isn't everything. Money is an element, but it's not all. And graduates now are a particular type of, they're a particular type of, for want of a better word, of a creature, in that they're very savvy in terms of work-life balance. They're very savvy about what else would this business or this job offer them. So we, for example, have had projects way over in the far west with this very small IT company. And the graduate actually was one of our exemplar projects. And the graduate moved to the area to carry out the role. And I said to him, what brought you to the role? And he said, honestly, the surf. The ability to surf. I love the sea.
Before anybody asks, that
this
actually wasn't a
job-
graduate of ours, but that does sound like why people would come to work with us down here.
Yeah, because, you know, the business was thinking, well, we can offer you this salary, we can offer you this training, we will be doing this in terms of our work, you can get these skills. And the guy said, I want more. And the company thought, oh, it's more money, we can't give more money. And he said, no, I want more in terms of an experience.
Yeah.
So if you're going to move, a graduate is going to move and they want to come to work in your business, they want an experience. And you might say they want an experience. What sort of an experience can I give them? A lot of people don't want to live anymore in built up cities. They're actually looking at, you know, places where they can buy affordable housing.
Yeah.
Maybe they want to get the property ladder. Maybe they're thinking, I can get a job here because actually I can buy a home. I can start building a family. Some like surfing, some like their location, as in, where is it? Is it somewhere I'd want to live? Is it actually a much nicer place to live? There are all different reasons. So it's not always just about the job. Crystal, I don't know if that's been the same in your experience.
No,
it's not always
totally
just about the job.
Yeah, and I think as well, you know, it kind of ties in with this great resignation that's going on as well, is that that kind of age demographic, they are looking at that employee value proposition. So yes, obviously salary has something to do with it because everybody has bills to pay and rent to pay and whatever else. But it's more about what's the value of the company that you're going to work with. What are the values? What are you going to offer me in terms of experience? And I would certainly have that as well. We really try to focus here on the career path and the career development of the person. And I suppose pre-COVID, one of our biggest selling points, to your point, Janet, was that we'd be like, you can move out to Lahent and you can surf every day. And that was a
and that does make a difference, because, you know, it is the whole proposition. It's not just the money. It is the whole proposition. It's the job. You know, the job now is a very small element. Graduates would see the actual job as being a small element of the overall bigger picture. They all have a why, and if you're asking yourself, what do you mean by that, Janet? What I mean is they know why, they know what their purpose is. All of them have a purpose. They all want to have, you know, some of them, you think about their values and what they base their values on. You know, a lot of them are very keen about diversity. A lot are very keen about, you know, there might be sort of
something. Yeah,
exactly. They're very aware, and they have a real level of self-awareness. They also have an emotional intelligence. And very often businesses would perhaps undermine or think that they don't have that level of emotional intelligence, which in actual fact goes against, it sort of almost, it limits, because they are very, very aware, and a lot of them are very emotionally intelligent about what it is that they're looking for. So if you're thinking about, you know, if say for instance you're thinking about recruitment and where you're based and you're out in the heck somewhere and you're thinking, who would want to come and work here? Think about why you would want to work there. Think about reasons other than just the money. What else is it would bring? What does your business do? Does it have a particular purpose? Is there something? Everybody has
what's the value?
Business owner, they have a passion, that they know why they do it every day, and share that, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking personality, they're looking for a passion, they're looking for something that's that little bit more, and that can just mean the difference between them coming to you and coming to a corporate. And as I would say, Crystal, to a lot of our graduates, sell the fact that when you go to a corporate, it's lovely, it's shiny and new, and it's bright and it's wonderful.
Ball pits, but you're
all things, but you are a very small fish in a very big pond.
Big pond, yeah.
You go to a small business as a graduate and you become the bigger fish, and you get to know your pond, and you can be and get skills, be someone who has credibility. You can find, that you're in a role where you're gaining confidence, you're proving your abilities, you're learning, you're sharing that knowledge with other people. It's a much more unique opportunity. And retaining graduates is not just difficult for small businesses, it's become in the last sort of 5 years even more difficult for larger companies to keep them. You know, it's not, larger companies are finding that graduates are seeing the benefits of working for smaller businesses. For those businesses who have a passion, who have an aspiration, and who really know their why, and they're becoming very, very attractive. Very, very attractive.
I'd agree with you, and I think that's the niche. That's
the
hook, I suppose.
It is. If you hit on the next one there, oh yeah, just it's a business. What do you need to think about? Sorry, Chris, I hadn't seen it moved. The expectation. I have conversations on a regular basis with companies who say to me, I'll have MDs that say, "But sure, they're only out of school. They're only out of school. What do they know? Here they're coming in and they think they're gonna come in. My goodness, I don't know. How sort of, it's almost a question of how little can I pay for this person. Those days have gone. These are professionals.
Yeah.
They have invested in themselves, many at great expense. And they now need to recoup that investment. So they are professionals and they're coming, yes, to prove themselves, but they're not coming with an idea of, I am so lucky to have this role. I'm so, they don't come with that sense. They come with, you know, I've invested in myself and I want you to have that level of expectation that you now, I'm investing in you as a business for you to give me opportunity, access to new learning. So expectation, it needs to be clear on both sides. I don't know, Chris, in your experience, sometimes what they're sold as a graduate program and what is reality are two different things.
And we have sometimes, Janet, we actually recently just took somebody on a graduate program, and during the interview process, she had been on another graduate program, and that was exactly her experience. She said she started, was put in a corner, was like, here's the work, no training, and she was like, that's not, you know, she was there to learn and to do a job, you know, and that was that. I do think that, in my opinion, I don't know, Janet, is that gone are the days of that the grads are there for cheap labour, you know, and that they're
well, that's the point I'm making. They are not cheap labour. They have what they have paid for their education is not cheap.
Exactly, and a lot of them have masters at this stage. You know, they're coming with 6 years out of college, you know, or university. So, you know,
they've invested. They've invested in themselves, and they have to get back a return on that investment. If you were a business person, it's exactly the same thing. If you invested in a business, you would expect a return. These guys are young professionals. They're expecting a return. Support structure is my second point on the slide there. And that's thinking about mentoring or coaching for the graduate.
Yeah.
But don't forget, who is the person providing the mentoring or coaching? You need to think about support for them. If you've never had a graduate program or a graduate employee in your business, graduates love to find out how they're getting on. They encourage feedback. They don't want to just sit in the corner and be handed stuff and told go away and get on with it. They like to have conversations. They like to check in. They like to hear from somebody, am I doing the right thing? Here's more I could do of. You know, it's that mentoring. So yes, while they're professionals, they're also there for self-development. They're also there to develop themselves and also develop your business. So it's a two-way conversation. It is a two-way conversation. So many, I don't know, you know, in my experience, I have a lot of businesses who say, well, what do they expect me to tell them? Why don't you ask them?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, Jen.
Why don't you ask?
Yeah, for our graduate program, it's extremely structured, and a mentor in place and a manager in place and different mentors in place for each area of the business.
Yeah,
and I think that's sometimes, I don't know, would you agree, is sometimes that's where companies go wrong. You don't just hire a grad without some kind of career path or structure or something, or somebody to be, and especially if it's remote, right? I mean, remote is challenging for people that we are fully remote. So if the graduates we've hired now are remote, which means we've got to put in the process in place, the morning meetings, weekly check-ins, updates constantly, just to make sure they're getting on okay, you know.
And I, as well as checking that they're okay on their side, it's also an exceptionally good mechanism as a business to be able to know what your employees actually doing.
Absolutely.
To be able to know what your employees actually doing takes you to talk as much, have a conversation with them. You know, you need to check in. So a support structure is critical. It really is. And as well as I said, they're not just the graduates, whoever's providing that support. So if you have somebody mentoring, do they actually know how to mentor?
Yeah.
Do they actually know what coaching is? Do they understand their role? Because if they understand their role and if they're supported, you're developing them as an employee as well as the graduate. So it's actually, you know, an opportunity for both.
And the training as well. You know, the training's not like, hey, will you take these kids and train them? It's the person who's training's got to know what they're doing as well.
Correct. And the training then, you know, training per se, training has to be relevant and appropriate. There's no point in providing training for a graduate in something which, you know, find out, a lot of them have done so much extra, you know, to just their basic degree. A lot of them have skills and experience outside of their academic learning. Find out more about them. Find out, you know, if they have any other skills. You might find that they can give back to the organisation by maybe providing training on things that they know. It's not just a one-way street. It's not always that they have to take. They can also give as well. So, for example, you know, they're all usually very, very tech savvy. If you are using, I could have done with one here this morning. I could certainly have done with my 7-year-old to help me get onto Microsoft Teams. But they can, you know, they can actually provide and feedback into the organisation in different ways. So, and that leads to that feeling of being included and being valued and being important. And I don't mean important in the sense of, you know, I'm exceptionally important, this is good for my ego. I mean that they feel they're part of your organisation, that they're part of your team, that they have a role to play, that what they do has a purpose, that it means something to somebody. And then I have down there as well, communication. It is key. It really is key. Anybody that has children will know they go through a phase, and I have 4 boys, and they go through a phase where they don't speak apart from one-word syllables. It's usually a grunt. You get very little. And I have found working in a graduate programme with InterTradeIreland, you know, I go to the grad fairs, and it's funny because they're not afraid to come up to the desk and ask you, what can you do? But then when you start asking them, usually some are confident, but some aren't. Sometimes there's a lot of bravado, you know, there's a lot of, I'm very professional and I'm very equipped, but really they are faking it till they make it.
Yeah.
So communicating effectively with them, giving them feedback, and I don't mean saying that's a load of nonsense. What did you present that to me for? Being constructive, being clear with your instructions. What is it that you want? You know, what is it that you need them to do? And then providing feedback on what they have actually provided. Did it meet the need? Did it not? What was your expectation? Why did it not meet it? Performance reviews are key. They are key because I hear from so many graduates, I'm leaving, I've got a new job. Why? Were you not happy? I was, but I don't know whether or not I was really doing a good job. I never got any, I didn't get a sense of where I was. I didn't know. So I'm going to go to this other organisation because, you know, they're telling me that what I'm doing is really good. If you don't tell them, they don't know.
Yeah. And
you know, would you find that?
I would, and Janet, I would emphasize as well, I have 3 boys who I have my first teenager, and all I'm getting is grunts at this stage as well. So we're now in
that happens for a period of time.
Yeah, we're now in the 1-syllable world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would agree with you. I think that again, you know, I'm going to go to questions and answers in a second because I have a few coming in just around this slide. Janet, just I would say in terms of the grads coming in is we have to look at that the way we raise our children is different now, you know, to the way we were, and we encourage questions and we encourage feedback and we encourage constructive feedback. So that's the way we've equipped them growing up. That's the way we've equipped them in school, in college. You know, they're doing their self-reflections or whatever else. So when they come to the workforce, you know, and you know, for all your employees, you know, feedback is a good thing. It's not just for grads. So I would absolutely say that, you know, they need to be told that it's not if they're doing a good job and not, you know, in terms of snowflake generation to say you're doing super, here's a little badge. It's that, you know, it's that actually, you know, this is working really well. You could maybe improve on these 3 things. How are you finding this? Do you want to do a different course on that? Or, you know, do you need a bit of training or whatever it is?
No, feedback's essential, but feedback has to be fair.
Exactly.
And I would say that feedback has to be fair. You know, when you are that graduate, you will, sometimes it's hard to take, you know, you have to think about, first of all, the person giving the feedback needs to be, yes, people say, oh, they're snowflakes, and they want a gold badge. That's not always true. They just want to know how they can improve themselves, because they're all fairly self-aware, and they're actually, they're very aware about themselves, and they're very aware about, they're creating their own brand. And I think they do appreciate feedback, but feedback has to be fair. So if you have a graduate working for you, you'll know that it's always good if you have something that they need to improve upon to tell them, but then tell them something that they do well.
Exactly.
So it's how do you do that? Do that and think about, you know, if somebody walked into you as MD and said, I absolutely hate how you chair a meeting. It drives me mad. I just cannot stand it. And leaves it there. Well, you wouldn't be impressed.
No, exactly. Is it because of how I'm talking, how I'm leading it? What's the direction we're going here?
Correct. It has to be constructive. So communication has to be constructive. I don't like how you chair the meeting, because the meetings always run on. You give everybody too long. I would prefer if you had an agenda and if we stuck to it. That's the constructive feedback. So that's something you can take away. So think about how you're feeding back. Be fair, but be constructive, and it will pay off. And if you hit the next slide, Krista, just before we do questions, then I can run through it.
Perfect.
So where to begin? Your business. What is your strategy? It doesn't matter whether you're a small business, whether you have 150 employees or 5. What's your goal? What are you aiming for? Think about it, because and what do you want to achieve? Think about your timelines. Taking a graduate on will not give you overnight success. They're an investment. It's like, you know, purchasing a high-end, something that's really, really expensive. You consider it before you purchase it. So if you're thinking about a graduate, consider it before you employ them. They are an investment. It's a long timeline. Cultivate relationships and gain knowledge. If you finished college or university in the 80s, 90s, 90s, I can guarantee you now that the guys coming out with degrees, the degrees are so diverse compared to whenever you perhaps graduated. Are you aware what's out there? Are you aware what they actually do courses in? You know, is there opportunity to connect with local colleges, ITs? Could you find out a bit more if you're, say, for talk's sake, if you're an engineering business, do you know what the guys are actually being taught? Do you know what skills or experience they're actually coming out with? Find out a bit more. Become almost like a student yourself. Find out what's out there for your business.
Mm-hmm.
Expectations, set your own and set theirs and be clear about it. Because by setting your expectations and setting theirs, you're both starting from the same place. Getting clear on what is on offer. Before you offer it, know what it is you're offering. You can't make it up as you go along. You need to be clear where your boundaries are in terms of not just salary, what else? Because they will come and ask you, they want to know what the package is, and the package goes beyond just how much you're going to get every month. So be clear on what is an offer. Communicating your message. Again, say what you can offer, but think about how you communicate it. How do they talk to one another? How do graduates, what do they look for? Where do you communicate your message? Are you on LinkedIn? Do you just put ads out in the local paper? Where do you put them? Where's your target audience? Where do they move? Where do you want to really communicate with them? And then if you do start a program, continually every stage of the process, evaluate it. When we did this happened. Why? Could we change something? Could we do something better? Get feedback. If you do have a program in place, get feedback from the participants. Get feedback from the people who manage the participants. Get feedback from people who didn't get a place. What did they think about the process? Was there anything that feedback to you? And then finally, get help or get some experience by working with others. Collaboration is a really, really good way to get experience in a graduate program. And if you hit on maybe a couple of slides, Crystal, you'll see InterTrade Ireland has a program called Innovation Boost. And this is the program I was talking about at the beginning. So if you're a small business in the island, tradable service or manufacturing, and you want to get your business, you have a strategy, perhaps you want to bring in a new technology, you want to create a new product, and you don't know where to start, we can support you to develop a partnership with an academic who has expertise in the area, and together you create a project for which you then recruit a graduate to actually implement it within your business. So projects are either 12 or 18 months in duration. You're working collaboratively with an academic partner, which you maybe have never done before. So that's a whole new experience as well. And that also links you into that graduate world. There's support there for the company and the graduate. There's personal development opportunities for the graduate, fully funded by InterTrade Ireland. So as part of the project, they can undertake a postgraduate diploma in innovation management. But more importantly, as a business, because we're talking about the businesses today, you can get experience and knowledge in how a graduate program actually works. So it takes an element of the risk out of it, because you're going to be supported while you do this. And I know that HR Locker, as a previous participant, this was a stepping stone that led them to then begin thinking about, well, actually, we could do something like this ourselves. We could actually set up a graduate program for HR Locker and use it as a pipeline of graduates, of new talent coming into our business. So think about it in a staged approach. You might be really confident in that, yeah, well, actually, I think we'll just go ahead and do it ourselves. Or you might want to try and get some help and do it collaboratively with the likes of InterTrade Ireland. The same, Explore, EI have opportunities, your Leos as well. There's lots of funding out there, but more importantly, there's lots of support. And I don't mean financially, I mean support in terms of knowledge, skills, expertise and experience. And sometimes that's what money won't buy.
Yeah, and I'd actually agree with you on that, Janet, is that we had an advisor years ago who I really kind of try to take this on board, is that don't ever hire somebody just because of the grant, because it's not going to be there forever, but hire somebody, but go on the program to learn from the experience of the people who are running the program. And that for us was the most, exactly. Obviously, look, I'm not going to lie, the grant is fantastic, from a bottom line perspective, but actually what you're getting is the advice of how to even set up, how to contact the colleges or the universities, how to make sure it's aligning to what you're doing, or even I know we had a couple of conversations with InterTrade in regards to well, maybe the project should maybe go this way instead of the other, and maybe you find grads who this is what they're actually teaching in the program, so
exactly. It's accessing that, I think it's unique because you get linked with an academic partner. So for instance, if you wanted to bring in a new digital, you're maybe looking to digitize your business or do something, implement a new process, very often when the companies come to that partnership with academic partner, and the cross-border element is if the company's in the south, the academics in the north. So you're getting access to academics that you wouldn't necessarily get access to any other way. But they'll maybe come and say, we want to do this, and the academic will say, well, that's actually quite basic.
Yeah.
Do you know that now you can do this? No, I didn't know that.
And the graduates are doing it the graduates are doing it in second year rather than they've moved on from that. Exactly.
So we have had projects where graduates have gone out and actually used a new technology that the academic has only ever read in a textbook, but they've put it into practice, and as a result of putting it into practice, they're actually able to feed back into that. So it's that whole feedback loop. They're able to feed back into the academic side and say, listen, you said this language would do this. Well, it won't support in this platform. It just won't. I've tried it and it just won't work. So you're going to have to go away and find out a new way of doing this because it won't work, and businesses, it just won't work for them. So it actually has more benefits in that you feedback, that feedback loop feeds back into academia. Academia then goes off and researches much more targeted areas that are appropriate and useful for businesses. The first thing businesses will say is academics haven't got a clue. They never do anything. They're not in business. Well, it's a bit like the graduate. You got to communicate with them. There's a feedback loop, and businesses need to feed back what it is that they actually need in order for academia to be able to go off and research it and develop it. And then you need to bring it back in and test it and try it. So working on a graduate program, and the likes of Innovation Boost in particular, is a really, really good way to do that, because you're entering that feedback loop. So as a business, the benefits for you as a business, it means that you're starting to push, you're starting to get aspirational, you're starting to be strategic. And everybody knows now, with the environment that we're working within, you have to start thinking strategically.
You have to 2 or 3 steps ahead constantly. You have to be. You have to be, Crystal, definitely. And we had a very positive experience with it, I must admit, and I would really take that on board, Janet, is that I would often have said, oh, look, academics don't know anything. They've never actually worked in business before. But, the truth of the matter is we don't give them a chance to actually understand where the gaps are. So
correct.
From both experiences, I don't know, they may have a different experience. They were terrible working with us, but I hope that they learned what we actually wanted as well, and from what we were struggling with from a business perspective. So I do think it kind of works. I think
it has to be meaningful, Crystal, for both. Exactly. It has to be meaningful. There has to be a reason why you're doing it, and there has to be something then that comes out of it, not just that you do it for doing it for the sake of it. It has to be meaningful. Businesses can't invest in recruiting graduates and implementing new technologies or trying new practices if it doesn't have a meaningful benefit. It has to benefit your business. That's the bottom line.
Exactly.
Everybody knows that. That's common sense. But academics are exactly the same. They can't go off and just do things because it might be good. It has to have a benefit to somebody. So the benefit should be within business. It should be in the graduates that they put out the door every year and they send out into industry. They need to know, are those people that they're sending out, are they equipped with the skills that you need? Are they actually relevant to your industry? Do they offer you what you need? And if they don't, well, then somebody needs to feed it back in, and it's the businesses need to use that feedback loop. So having a graduate program is a really, really constructive way to feed back in, because you find out what the skills and what the knowledge that they have when they come out of university. And if they are missing, if there's gaps, feed it back in to that feedback loop of working with academia, and also taking the graduates and upskilling and using their skills and experience, and, you know, collaboratively working with them to build your business.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. So I have a couple of questions here, and I'm just conscious of time, Janet, so I'm just going to roll through them, if that's okay. So is role rotation a good idea within a grad program where experience in all fields is given, or do you think graduates find this confusing?
You know what? It depends on the business and it depends on the different areas. Personally speaking, I think it does no harm. They need to understand, if you think about it, if they are designing new products, they can design wonderful new products, but the difficulty is if you don't have a marketing department that can sell the product, if the salesman says that product is a load of nonsense, I can't sell it to anybody because it won't actually do what they want it to do. So if you rotate a graduate around that they understand, they work with a salesman and they actually understand, well, the customer wants this or needs this, then they can design better a product that the comms team, and you might laugh and say, comms team, I'm a small business, I have one guy that does absolutely everything. Well, then they should be working with that guy because they should know what that guy can do and what he can't. And if they become much more aware of the business as a whole, a graduate, to my mind, if you're training them for management, they need to have that helicopter view. They can't sit in a silo and pretend that they just do this one thing. They need to have a helicopter view. They need to understand all the elements of the business that come together to create or have that output, and having that experience and having that benefit. Not all of them will like to do it. And you'll always find one that says, oh, I don't really do finance. I don't really like it. Well, you should, because
you need to understand
what you do. Yeah. You got to understand what you do, how it impacts on finances. If you're designing a new product, you got to know how much it costs to put it together, to how much we're going to be able to sell it for to get a return.
You don't need to know how to do it, but you need to understand.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, I think diversity, and also as well, you know, that's an interesting question. Allowing them the opportunity to try other and to get experience in other roles is actually a good way of finding out, do they have any input or do they have any suggestions about how that could you improve that in any way? Yeah. Exactly. Could you do it differently? Yeah. Could you improve that? Have they had experience where somebody has done something, you know, maybe you know, in a manufacturing plant? Sometimes when somebody isn't when it's not their what would you say, their area of expertise, they can ask questions which actually challenge the person that's been there, because maybe you've been there, somebody's been working a line for 10 years and they've always done exactly the same thing, and somebody says, but why do you do that? And the person says, well, I've done it because, well, it's always been done like that. Yes. Sure, we've always done that for 10. We've done that for 10 years. Why wouldn't I do it? And the graduate says, well, why do you do it? So it can actually create an appetite or an acknowledgement that actually, let's review this. Is this right? So, you know, it has that as well. I have, we're just going to go, we have a number of questions here, but I'm just going to take two more because we're kind of very I go as quick as I can.
Sorry.
More in.
So quick as yet, how do you get buy-in internally to start a grad program? I see the value, but other leaders internally do not agree.
That's a very, very common question. You have to think about the people who don't agree. Are they moving with your strategy for the business? Do they have a fixed mindset, or do they have a growth mindset in terms of the business? And to me, evidence always outweighs if you can back up your argument. So if you can say, listen, we're bringing somebody in because we want to develop a particular area and nobody here has expertise in it. You know, you're explaining a rationale, being very clear about what the objective is. sometimes staff who are already employed are nervous because they think they're going to be extinct as well, that their role will, somebody that is shiny, bright and new will come in, and there's that fear factor that they will be pushed out. So being clear in how you communicate it, why you're doing it, what's the purpose, what the role is going to be about, and understanding, you know, asking. Sometimes you have to be very upfront and say, listen, you have as much a responsibility as I do, because without this business moving forward, none of us are going to have a role.
And like you said, so, it has to be strategic. You know, if you look long term, you know.
Being strategic. Yeah. Being strategic. Definitely, Crystal. Yeah. And being very much open about it and being upfront with that. And it is moving from that, this is what we've always done, this is what we do, to taking a look around and remembering, if you want to be in that innovation curve, if you want to continue business, the time to think about new ideas isn't when your idea is completely exhausted. It's before you even get to the high point. It's being constantly ahead.
Yeah, I would agree.
Do you want to do one more, Crystal, or are you happy? Or
we'll leave it there, and I'll send some of them on to you. We might send them on with the email. So Janet, if somebody wants to get in contact with you, we'll send all your details along if anybody wants to.
Yeah, email address is janet.toal@intertradeireland.com.
Perfect.
It's very easy. You'll find me on the website. InterTradeIreland.com is our website. You can have a look under the innovation section and you'll find Innovation Boost there. Yeah. You can go on and watch a few of the exemplars, which is from the horse's mouth, from the companies, from the graduates, from the academics, why they've done it and what they got out of it.
Yeah, and I think
you're very, very welcome.
Yeah, if anybody wants to even just talk to myself in terms of my own experience, has been really positive with the InterTradeIreland grad program as well. So we'd be happy to, if anybody has any burning questions, but certainly thank you so much for taking the time on, Janet. Apologies for any technical issues, but we got there in the end. So you can have a.
People blame me, Crystal. Thank you very much for having me.
You can have a cup of tea afterwards and relax.
I know, it's been a pleasure talking to you this morning, and and all the businesses. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Crystal. Thanks. Bye.